Hi, welcome to the Yes to Kindness show. My name is Tammy Joy Lane. I'm so excited that you are here, and I just want to take this time to tell you a little bit about myself and what I'm all about. So I grew up number five of 10 kids, and I joined the army when I was 18, and then I turned 21 in Baghdad. From there, I came home actually because of a suicide attempt. And so back in the day, mental health in the military was not really a thing. And so I kind of slipped under the rug and fell through the cracks. I spent the next 9 years in and out of psych wards, husbands moving. And when my fourth husband left me, I realized that I might be part of the problem. And so I realized I needed to make a change. I'd been in therapy, I'd done all these things, but I started doing kindness like it was my job. One day I would do a kind thing and then I would post about it. And what I found is that it gave me a sense of purpose and it gave me something to look forward to. One thing I love is the importance of sharing the good that we do. Sometimes we think that if we share the good we do, that we're bragging. But in reality, Wayne Dyer even said if kindness witnessed, received, or given, um, witnessed, okay, I don't know exactly, but basically, it raises the vibration of everyone involved and it makes the idea sound achievable to other people. Sometimes kindness can feel overwhelming or you don't know what to do, but if we're sharing the good we do, then we can inspire others on how easy it is to be kind. And definitely being kind isn't about being perfect. There's definite times in my house where I've been called out, oh, the kindness lady is a real beast at home. But knowing that you're human and knowing that you mess up too and that I mess up too still, and just giving ourselves the grace and the space to be human. So when my fourth husband left me, I found myself on the fetal floor in the fetal position. I'll never forget my friend who came over and laid by me until I could breathe again. She gave me some ice cream, and then I was able to get up. From there, just doing one kindness a day and talking about it, it kind of got some momentum going. And along with kindness is I started sending cards out to people. And I wanted to not just think appreciation, I wanted to show appreciation. Sometimes we just think all these good things about people and it stops there. But how great is it that we let that appreciation get back to the person who helped us or who changed our life? So I started sending thank you notes to principals, to old teachers, people in the gas station. Every receipt you get has their address, it has the name of the person that helped you. And I started sending these out. And then I would see those cards taped up at the place I had sent them. And so I started to create a world that I wanted to live in because of the way that I acted and the way that I went throughout the world. And so that's one thing is if we create a world that we want to live in and also for a world that's safe to be human. So I started doing kindness and appreciation. And one day I went to a conference and that was kind of my lifeline. That was my addiction, if you will. I would be going to conferences I had no business going to because I didn't really have a business. I was just in the business of spending money. And at this conference, it was a speaking conference, and people would ask, what do you do? What do you speak about? And I would always say kindness. But this time, I was in the elevator heading back to my room, and this lady she was trying to get in the elevator, and I reached out my hand and stopped it. And I let her on the elevator. And she was so grateful because she was in a hurry. And when she asked what I spoke about, I told her this idea of saying thank you in advance. Turned out she was on a radio show in Canada and she said she'd never heard this idea. And fast forward, funny story, I thought I invented that. and later found out it's in the Bible, so whatever. But I was able to be on her radio show in Canada, and just a pro tip, make sure you get the details of what you have going on because I didn't realize it was just audio. And so I got all ready, and it's fine to get ready for no reason. But it was just funny how I made sure I looked good and then found out it was just audio. But she was the first person who kind of gave life to my idea. And from then, it just kind of caught wildfire. I started finding all the ways that I could use this idea of pre-thanking people, pre-appreciation. And that just kind of gave me more momentum to want to live. So from there, I decided I wanted to do a TED Talk. And so I applied for a TEDx talk in Idaho Falls. I had the best idea. It was going to say how kindness helped people overcome suicide. And I typed it all up. It was the night that the submissions were due. And when I hit submit, the entire form cleared out. And I remember looking up and I said, what the hell do you want me to talk about? And this idea of pre-appreciation just streamed, like I remembered how great of an idea it was, and I typed it out and hit submit. And they loved it, and they asked me to come and do the TEDx in 2016. At this time, I'd gotten back together with my fourth husband, and we were moving from Utah to New York. And so it was I couldn't even be stressed about the TEDx talk because I was moving across the country. I couldn't even be stressed about moving across the country because I was prepping for this TEDx talk. And so this just always reminds me how important it is to have something on your books, have something scheduled, because having something to look forward to is vital in staying alive. And that's what I talk a lot about is suicide prevention and mental health and kindness and just being brave enough to ask for help. You know, if you break your arm, you know you need a cast. If you get cut, you know you need stitches. And the hardest thing about mental health is you don't always know what you need. Do you need a bath? Do you need food? Do you need someone to listen to you? Do you need to be left alone? Mental health affects us all differently. And so what we need changes. And not even knowing what we need makes it really hard to how to ask for help. And so what I want to do through this show is just remind people the importance of asking for help and reaching out in healthy ways. And if you can't do it in healthy ways, then unhealthy way is way better than just dying. And I just know that your life matters, and whatever you're going through, just stay for the future you. I remember in the darkest of days, I bought a typewriter and I was typing this poem called apoptosis, because that's what cells do. When they become destructive to the body, it's called cell suicide. They take themselves out so they don't hurt the bigger body. And I was, in my mind, convinced that it would be better for the world if I was not there. And that's the scary part, is when you find yourself rationalizing yourself out of your own life, you know you're not in a good spot. If you think your kids will be better off without you, or your family, or your work, and just noticing the signs of when we're not okay and being able to reach out for help. And so from there, I was able to turn this TEDx talk into a book, and just from going from failed suicide after failed suicide to becoming a TEDx speaker and an author, and now just encouraging people to remember how important they are. I was watching this talk, and it was talking about sometimes it's like we're playing a game of hide and seek, but the other party stopped playing and you're still just hiding. And just remembering that sometimes you have to find yourself and find a way to want to keep going even if no one's looking for you. Because once you get out of hiding, start sharing your story, start sharing the way that you've overcome your challenges, you're going to start finding people who are hiding. And just the people I've met over this journey, I never would have met them. And you never know what your 10 years from now person has in store for you. And if there's hope for me, there is so hope for anyone. I'll never forget, I was sitting on the edge of a cliff and I have a scar here. I had cut and I was going to cut my jugular. And I must have hit a nerve or something, but the shock went down my body and up to my head. And this voice said, "You're not done yet." And I set down what I was using and I called for help. And it was interesting. I didn't call any of my family. I called a friend of the family. And so sometimes we, as people who care about other people, have to realize that it's really hard to ask someone so close for help. And so that's why we need those other barriers of people who we can ask for help. And so that's what this is going to be about. It's going to be overcoming. It's going to be about choosing life one day at a time. Right now, I'm working on a project called One More Day of Kindness. And it's an extension of that daily kindness. But this time I'm not alone. And so I'm building up a team where we help each other out. We check in with each other. And that's what you get to do in your life is you don't have to do it alone. And you don't have to keep believing the things of your past. Your future is wide open and it can be anything you want it to be. Maybe no one told you that you're worth the dreams that you have in your heart. Maybe no one told you how important you are. Maybe nobody told you that your ideas are good and the things you want to do matter. And I just want to remind you that you matter and that you are so important. And the world would not be the same without you. And so after I wrote my book, we had moved from then from New York to Connecticut to California, and then we had moved up to Washington State. And this was 2019. And the last suicide attempt that I had was in 2013. And so from 2013 to 19, for 6 years, I hadn't had any what's called a relapse. And so I got to this point where I started to realize I was not okay. But I also didn't want to mess up or, if I had been sober since 2013, I didn't want to break my streak or whatever. And so I was stubborn and just trying to make it and act like I was okay because I talked about suicide prevention and I talked about how important kindness was. And it got to a point where I knew I had to be out of the state of Washington because I had a plan, I knew the place, I knew what I was going to do. And so when I went home for Thanksgiving in 2019, my family went home and I stayed and checked myself into the psych ward. And asking for help after you've kind of arrived, I mean, not like I had arrived, we never arrive, we're always learning. But after you've had a little bit of success, kind of messing up again or struggling again, it's even harder to ask for help. And so as I'm checking myself into the psych ward, I realized I was missing those basic things. I wasn't showering. We were living in a motorhome with 5 of us and a dog. And so my basic needs were not being met. It was raining. It was not good living conditions. And so these 5 things that I talk about a lot: eating, sleeping, exercising, I can't remember the other one, and then showering, like those things that only you can control, that only you can do for yourself. It's so easy to just let those kind of let go and find out that, 2 weeks of not eating, not drinking, not sleeping regularly, you can really get into a bad state. And just getting a warm meal can sometimes be the thing that helps you want to keep living. And so I just want to emphasize those small things that make a big difference. So I check myself in the psych ward and I get okay again. And just talking about that, asking for help was really healing because it's easy to ask for help when it's easy, like broken arm. I mean, that's easy. But asking for help when it's not clear, when you're not sure, then that takes a whole another level. And so the thing is, we need to practice asking for help in small ways. It's like building a muscle. We got to get our asking for help muscle strong so that when we need help mentally, we already have that muscle. Or I like to look at it like laying tracks. We need to lay down the tracks so that we're not isolated because too often we're isolated and don't have the tracks to get to the help we need. And so asking for help and giving help and receiving help is this beautiful circle that A, helps you feel like you can contribute, and B, lets others serve you so they feel like they can contribute. And that's one thing is when I founded Yes to Kindness, it really wasn't about kindness. It was about receiving kindness and letting that love in because most generally, I mean, we are taught to serve, taught to give. I mean, the Army selfless service, churches, they're they're taught to serve Rotary clubs. It's service, service, service. But nobody really talks about yes to kindness. And I'm going to do a whole different podcast on that. But the idea is just saying yes when kindness is offered so that it keeps good people doing good. Because every time we do kindness rejection and we stop it, then that person is less likely to be kind next time. And so if we just keep that flow of kindness going, then it can just be a better world that we want to live in. So after 2019, a whole bunch of other crazy stuff happened. We finally found a house, and then it just kind of brought me to today. I just kind of getting different opportunities open up, and I can't even believe the life I have now based on where I was. For example, I went to Costa Rica last year, and I handed the guy my driver's license, and my passport. So he's looking at my passport, he's looking at me, and he said, "I'm sorry, ma'am, do you have a different form of ID?" So I handed my driver's license, and he's looking at the passport, looking at the driver's license, looking at me, and he said, "I'm sorry, this isn't the same person." And I said, "I'm not happy." And so there is so much hope. If there is hope for me, there is hope for anyone and everyone. And there's definitely hope for you too. So whatever you're struggling with, whatever you're going through, whatever you've done, you can't change it. You can't go back. Have I done some things that are shady that I'm embarrassed about that I hope my mom never finds out? Yes. Have I done some things that I'm not proud of? Yes. Have I had thoughts in my head that I should go to jail for? Definitely. But the thing is we can't go back. We can't change the past. We can't unsay things. But going forward from right here, right now, we have the power to create a life we want to live in. And so come on back, join me in making the world safe to be human, because truly you never know what someone's packing behind their smile or their scowl. And remember, you're doing better than you think and more good than you know. You got this.